Assalamu alaikum viewers, I'm Zubia Irfan. Welcome to another show of CxO Talk. As you know, it's a knowledge sharing platform for all the C-level across the Pakistan and around the globe. Every time we invite some interesting personalities in our show. Today we are honored to have Mr. Muneeb Imran Shaikh with us. Mr. Muneeb is a seasoned information security expert with over 15 years of experience in governance, data security, compliance, and privacy protection. He has worked with the global frameworks to help organizations strengthen their cybersecurity and drive strategic innovation. Let's hear his insights on building secure digital environment and fostering a positive work culture. So, Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Muneeb.
Walaikum assalam. How are you doing? I'm pleased to be at your show.
Great. I'm doing great, and inshallah, we are going to have a wonderful conversation with you. Okay, so Mr. Muneeb, could you please give a brief introduction to our viewers about yourself?
Okay, so I started off my career from Pakistan in the telecommunication sector, and
Right.
most part of my career was spent in telecommunication sector, and then I had branched off towards information security, and now I'm working in the Middle East region for more than a decade now. And my areas of expertise are centered around data privacy and AI governance, which is still an emerging field. So these are my areas of expertise, and I've worked with various organizations, starting from the telecommunication sector to financial sector, and even to certain entities in the government sector to basically help them establish their information security divisions and to establish their governance, and similarly for data privacy as well.
Right, right. So, Mr. Muneeb, why is data privacy and protection becoming increasingly important for businesses today?
Hmm. Actually, the thing is that I believe it's only gaining more prominence. Organizations have always relied on the data. The thing is, and I'm of this view that we as humans have this innate nature to codify each and everything into our minds. Whatever we see, whatever we experience, we codify this in the form of the memories. So when it comes to the business entities are consistently under a kind of compulsion to basically innovate and to serve the market in a more efficient manner, and to consistently innovate new things. Now, in order to do that, in order to introduce new services to the market that are beneficial for the society at large, there comes an intersection with the personal data. Okay.
Right.
Now, what has happened is that because of the technological advancements that have taken place in past 4 or 5 decades, the
Mhm.
ability to store and compute the data, and particularly personal data, has become so important, so easier for these organizations. And with the computational capabilities and the storage cost, which went down, and still it's much easier to basically have the storage in place. So with these storage and computational cost still in the grasp, or within the reach of the big organizations, and since they have the capability to basically analyze and generate a lot of intelligence out of it, what has happened is that these big organizations, they are able to garner so much information about an individual, which an individual may not have thought about himself or herself. And that's where the people have started to feel that their privacy or their right to be left alone is somewhat being infringed upon. So therefore, the information privacy regulations have been brushed up in past few decades across the globe. Europe has been, at the forefront of this, but we have seen the brooming of, various regulations even in the Asian region in past few decades. And that's how it becomes
Mhm.
extremely important now. So basically, the idea is that you want to strike the balance between innovation, but that should
Right.
not come at the cost of at the cost of individuals' rights. So whatever regulations around information security, sorry, information privacy have been created, the objective has been to strike a balance where the innovation is looked after, and yet the digital trust is also being adhered to.
Right, right. So, Mr. Muneeb, what is AI governance and ethics? And can you explain its origin?
So when you talk about the AI governance, and
Mhm.
so we are basically moving one step ahead of the data privacy, because when you so you asked about the AI governance origins. You see that why AI has actually come to life. It's because whenever any discipline becomes, where the
Right.
knowledge around any particular discipline becomes too democratized, and when doing that task becomes is reduced to a being mundane, then what humans
Mhm.
do is that humans attempt to automate those things, so that all the human mind and the creativity is used for a better, for better things. So now when there are a lot of things that we as humans, or as the human societies, want to innovate, and they will attempt to automate certain things, the question comes in is that how, with the AI adoption, how various other societal interests are going to be looked after, like
Right.
the harms to the individuals, the privacy rights, privacy. Because remember that in order to in order for any AI model to function, it's extremely important that it needs to have it relies significantly on the personal data, and also on the computational resources. So these are the things that need to be taken into account, and that's where the AI governance actually comes in to again strike a balance between innovation and also making sure that the digital trust as a
Mhm.
virtue is upheld.
Okay, okay. So, Mr. Muneeb, what ethical concerns or risks are associated with AI, and how do these affect individual privacy?
Hmm. Very interesting question. Actually, when you talk about the ethical concerns, there are four to five things. The first thing is that whatever solutions that you are bringing in, whatever AI models,
Right.
basically AI is powered through the machine learning models, which are actually sitting beneath the AI itself.
Okay.
So if AI solutions have been brought onto board, they first have to derive their legitimacy. From where do they get, I mean, who has incorporated them? Because again, some of the AI solutions are so invasive where they can impinge upon the privacy of the individuals as well. And so that's one thing. The second part is that if AI is actually churning out any data, how that score, how certain determinations have been made, that is something that needs to be taken into account. But if I have to enlist few of them, first and the foremost is around the group harms, because
Right.
you are making any judgment through the AI
Mhm.
solutions. Remember, in every society there are two sections at large. One is the marginalized section of the society, and one is the
Okay.
minority section of the society. So
Mhm.
if you're using certain AI solutions which are going to come up with certain judgments upon the individuals that may belong to a certain section of the society that have been marginalized for a long time period. Imagine, I
Mhm.
mean, sometimes what happens is that the society in itself, it has a lot of inequality within the society, and when
Right.
those inequalities are not pruned, or are not addressed, AI essentially ends up exacerbating those inequalities. So that's one group harm that takes place. Like, so there is a classical case of Amazon when they had actually adopted AI to perform the screening of the new employees,
Right.
to do the initial screening. So, and the AI model was trained on the data set uh, were all which were previously hired by Amazon earlier on, and the sample of data which was given actually for the model training, the sample data were all basically was the data related to men.
Right.
So when the initial screening was being done, all the outputs, all the potential candidates, all the potential successful candidates that were being churned out by those AI models were those that were actually saying that, okay, men are more likely to be successful in this kind of job rather than women. Now, if you see, now basically, if you tie this up with the point that I was making a while back, that in every section of the society, in every society actually, you have a marginalized section and you have a minority section. Okay, now let's take the example in Pakistan. I think the women, ratio within the society. I mean, it's 51%. So it may not necessarily be an issue of minority, but if you see women across the globe have historically been more marginalized. So you have to factor in these things that okay, if a solution is being adopted, what are the principles beneath that model which are being used to, and what kind of data set is being used to train those models. So take another example that things where I remember there was a case where a facial recognition technology was trained, and it was only capable of detecting the people with a fairer skin, because the model that was developed, it was developed and trained using only the individual with the fairer skin. So that anyone who has a relatively darker tone or relatively a black tone, they faced difficulty in basically getting through that system. Now this is an issue which is relatively easier to address, okay, because that's an issue which is related to the sampling. You can train the model again with the additional data. But the point that I'm trying to make is that at times there are inequalities which are so pervasive within the society. And if you do not factor in those things while developing the machine learning models, while developing the models which are going to feed off the AI, that is where these group harms get further exacerbated. And remember, when there are inequalities within the society, these are the these are the societal injuries which are there. Sometimes these scars are very deep, and if you basically onboard AI, and if you do not take these things into account, AI is going to end up exacerbating or increasing these scars. And that's where eventually it becomes, it may lead to a situation where it can be a cause of serious concern to the rule of law and the national cohesion as well. So that's one particular ethical concern. The second ethical concern that I would particularly like to talk about would be around the climate change, because the amount of computational power that these big machine learning models are taking, and the amount of energy needs that they require, it is simply massive. It is simply massive, and uh, the thing is that it has a significant effect on the overall sustainability to the climate. And again, because when you require massive energy, and then again you also require the water is again becoming a scarce resource, in the sense that the amount of water and the energy that is needed to power up these data centers, that's significant in nature. Now if you compare it with the global south, or the countries which are not that powerful, since they have not really industrialized with the passage of time, they are already too far behind in basically leveraging or exploiting this opportunity which is out there. On the contrary, the countries which are already far ahead in the curve, they are actually able to leverage these capabilities, and they are contributing far more to the global carbon emissions than those which are actually in the global south, or perhaps which do not have the capability, which, or those which have been left behind in the industrialization era. So these are the concerns that usually come up with. So I'm saying group harms, I consider one of these to be the significant harms. Privacy will automatically become a casualty if privacy regime is not there within the organization. And the second most important harm that I see is around the climate, the environmental
Right.
damage that it will cause. So yeah, it's still a fluid situation right now. I anticipate that going forward, and because there are emerging ESG regulations as well, so I anticipate that with the passage of time, the world will be able to find out a solution with the platforms like the United Nations and these global bodies.
Right, right. So, Mr. Muneeb, how can the absence of AI ethical guidelines or governance lead to societal harm?
Yeah, but because see the challenge has been that the AI governance regulations are still in the infancy stage. And
Okay.
while some have actually, so Europe again has taken a lead in this one. Europe has passed its
Mhm.
European AI Act. Singapore has its regulations. There are US has few regulations as well. But the challenge is that if you do not have the regulations, and if you do not have the relevant expertise, because again the issue has been, what at least what I have noticed is that people consider AI to be an issue of technology. It's not really an issue of technology. It's a socio-technical system where the adoption of AI has serious consequences on the society. It does not mean that you have to abandon it. This is not the mantra that I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when we basically adopt AI, we have to factor in each and everything. I mean, how do we balance, how do we exploit this opportunity while balancing the other adverse effects? That's the goal over here. So I believe the challenge is that A, the regulations are still in the infancy stage, and B, the individuals who are supposed to actually establish the AI governance, they often see things purely from the technological lens and not from the social and from the socio-economic lens. That's one of the biggest challenge. And once you do not have the resource that has the capability to basically see across all these layers, that's where it becomes extremely difficult to actually embed the ethical considerations into the AI solutions that your organization is going to either develop or it's going to onboard within your own organization.
Okay. So, Mr. Muneeb, how do you see the AI associated with processing having an impact on the environment and carbon emission?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier on, that the amount of uh, computational resources that it's going to require, and again, that's where the privacy concerns usually come in, because uh, no matter what I mean, even some of the privacy enhancing techniques have not been very mature. So it's still a challenge to actually strip off some of the personal data while uh, training the new models. So that's one aspect, that somehow the personal data already gets moved into the machine learning models. That's one thing. The second part is that the amount of energy that is required to power up these data centers and the earth resources that are required, that they are massive in nature. And again, in order to power up these data centers, you need energy. And the more energy requirements that you are going to have, obviously you are going to contribute far more in the carbon emissions. And that's where it creates this challenge where even while you are basically helping you are responsible for the creative destruction, while through innovation and having AI adoption within the society, but again it is coming at the cost of adverse effects to the climate.
Absolutely. So, how can organizations establish an AI ethics function, and who should be responsible for overseeing AI governance?
Okay, so the first and the foremost thing is to basically make sure that whoever is responsible, whoever is given the responsibility to do the cheerleading work of AI governance, I mean, they should be sufficiently trained across multiple disciplines. When I say across multiple disciplines, it means that they need to have reasonably sound understanding around information technology at large, information security, privacy itself, legal, and the socio-economic understanding as well. If you do not have this level of understanding, it becomes extremely difficult to make sure that that your AI governance function will be able to actually deliver its expected objectives. That's point number one. Point number two is that where exactly should it rest within the organizational structure? I believe it can be somewhere with the risk or with the control functions at large, basically, either with risk or with the compliance. Because the thing is that that's where you can make sure that all the adverse impacts that could basically materialize, those effects are those impacts are actually determined at the onset, and they are addressed. And so therefore I consider anywhere in the control function, I mean, if AI governance could be stacked. So right now what we have seen is that when you talk about the bigger organizations, like the big tech organizations, they usually have a standalone AI departments, and with
Mm-hmm.
the separate chief AI officer who exercises his own power, who is not working under the umbrella of, let's say, information security or data privacy. But for smaller organizations who may not be so rich in terms of the resources, when I say resource, in terms of the monetary resources and also in terms of the human resources, so
Right.
I believe that's where you can basically club it along with your existing control functions. The closest that comes to my mind is again the privacy, because remember, privacy is responsible for basically making sure that the interests and like the European Union GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, actually the spirit of this regulation is to uphold the rights and the freedoms of the individuals. So in the same manner, even if you see the European Union AI Act, which has been formulated, it's built on the same underlying theme. The spirit of that AI Act is the same actually. So I believe if an organization is not very rich in terms of the resources,
Mm-hmm.
again, when I say resources in terms of monetary resources and also in terms of the human resources, I think in that case it can be somewhere in the control function, alongside probably with the team which is responsible for upholding the ethics, or perhaps someone which is actually uh, even with privacy. But the most important thing is that, so even some smaller organizations, they usually have their own ethics function. But if the ethics functions capabilities are only limited to legal and the bare minimum compliance, I don't think you can actually yield too much out of that. The kind of workforce that you need to create for the AI governance is where these folks are able to understand the technological aspect, where these
Right.
individuals are able to work on information security, privacy. I mean, they should have reasonably sound understanding on information security, privacy, legal aspects, and also the socio-economic aspects. Because if the socio-economic aspects are not looked after, that is where it culminates into the group harms, into the environmental harms, into the other societal harms as well. So this is how I feel that it can be addressed.
Very right. Very right. So, Mr. Muneeb, why is transparency and fairness so critical when it comes to privacy and AI?
Hmm. So, see, basically, especially when it comes to AI, and even it goes with the privacy. Basically, when you are using the personal data identifiers, when you're using the personal data to make a determination upon an individual, okay, and when you are basically using that data to pass a judgment upon an individual, it's extremely important to basically communicate with the individuals how a certain conclusion was made. Let's say if you go to apply for a loan in a bank,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and if your loan is rejected just based on your gender, you would not like that. Let's say if it is rejected just because of the skin of your color, the color of your skin, I'm
Right.
sorry, or because of your nationality. So these are essentially the protected characteristics, but these all these things fall into the category of the personal data. Now imagine if all these data points are being used to come up with some kind of a judgment by a AI solution which has been onboarded by your organization. Imagine, I mean, if the individuals do not know that why their loan application was rejected. Was it because of my nationality? Was it because of the color of my skin? Was it
Mm-hmm.
because of my gender? Was it because of some other thing which actually distinguishes me? Or sometimes it can be because of your religious and political inclinations as well. So that's
Okay.
where it becomes extremely dangerous, so therefore it's extremely important to make sure that the organizations are able to transparently communicate what are the parameters on which the AI solution is actually coming up with a conclusion. And
Hmm.
these things
Okay.
need to be transparently communicated, and they also have to be fair. So if you are unfair and if you're just transparent, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Right.
yeah, I mean, so both of these things have to go together. Transparency and fairness have to go hand in hand. You cannot have transparency without being fair. If you are unfair, sooner or later you will not you will basically begin to even corrupt the principle of transparency as well. It cannot happen. Therefore, these two principles have to be linked together, in order to make sure that whatever personal data processing is being carried out by the organization, whether it's for AI or for any other processing, these things are the primary considerations.
Right, right. So, Mr. Muneeb, how do AI ethics and privacy concerns affect Pakistan's economy, and what opportunities exist for the country to benefit from these fields?
I see great challenges coming up for Pakistan. A, because of the economic downturn that Pakistan has had over decades, I think I would say, and this has caused actually this has made Pakistan move so far back that we are not able to actually exploit the advantages which might be there out there globally. That's point number one. Point number two is that even our regulations are not basically equipped to address the challenges associated with the AI and the privacy. So, and remember, even for the trade, if you have to do the trade across with the globe, it's almost impossible to have the trade with any personal data actually moving across the continents. It's almost improbable. So
Right.
if any jurisdiction does not have adequate protections for the personal data within so what it signals is that this particular jurisdiction is not really appropriate for doing the trading. So these are the things that in Pakistan that need to be looked after well, and in
Hmm.
order to make sure that our challenges are basically intertwined with each other. A, that your economy is essentially in a downturn, and when you have a struggling economy, I mean, it's ill advised to have too heavy regulations over there, because regulations can be quite cumbersome, and they can come at the cost of basically economic growth as well. So again, Pakistan is actually stuck in that case, but it also provides an opportunity where we can develop things where we can basically address, basically take advantage to serve the global markets as well. So again, it's a long discussion, I mean, about the how to basically extract those advantages. But my point is that if we do not focus ourselves into establishing our expertise around these domains, we will miss the opportunity. At least this is something that we need to realize as a nation.
Right, right. So, Mr. Muneeb, what drives your passion for continuously learning and evolving in fields like information security, privacy, and AI ethics?
See, I think I sincerely believe that if we have to even rise as a nation, we cannot afford to be just being mediocre. I mean, we cannot afford to deliver those things which or resolve those problems which are the problems of the yesteryears. We need to focus our energies on the things which are the issues of the coming years. So therefore, it's extremely important that we focus on things which are not the problem of today. We need to look beyond them, and we need to start focusing on things that are going to haunt us in probably 2 to 3 decades to come. That's where I mean, that's how I basically derive my internal motivation. I consider this continuous learning to be a therapy for myself actually.
Great, great. So, Mr. Muneeb, in the end, I would like to ask, how's going your experience with CxO Global Forum?
I have to thank CxO Global Forum for their entire efforts. Actually, I believe it's a great forum for such C-level executives and the other experts within the industry, not just in Pakistan but across the globe, to basically interact with each other and to share ideas and to basically benefit from each other's experience, and also to find out opportunities for the collaborations and for the value creation within the society.
Right, right. So, Mr. Muneeb, we wish you more and more success in your life. And it has been a very insightful discussion with you. I hope our viewers will learn a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. And I wish CXO Global Forum all the best for their future efforts.
Thank you. So, viewers, this is it for today. Inshallah, see you soon with some another amazing personality. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.